Hello, precious people. I'm Jacqueline Parks. Welcome to my studio, Stampin' Turtles, which today we have a very special treat. I'm going to be actually painting a sea turtle, which I do love the sea turtles. I like box turtles. That's how my whole turtle thing got started. But now I love all these sea turtle things, and I used to go and watch for sea turtle tracks on the beach with my friend Carmen and all kinds of stuff. So anyways, let me see if we're going live. Okay, I hear myself. I hear volume. I see the images. So I am going live. It's excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I hope y'all had a blessed Easter yesterday. It was so much fun for us. We went to church, and then I got to serve with the second graders, and we didn't have as many as I thought. I planned to have like 20 kids, and we only had 8. They must have came the day before when there was arts and crafts and stuff for them to do. So, but I got to see all of the kiddos that I love and give them little special treats that I made up. And what else did we do? Oh, we got to go see um, my husband's sister and hang out at her house, which was just lovely and so relaxing and just a great way to spend Easter is with family. I did want to show you guys some of the fun little treats I had from when I met on Thursday at the coffee house with all my friends. We do like a little gift exchange for holidays and things like that. And so we got to, Mama made these little things. Well, probably Carmen. Biba made this cute little thing with the tea. It holds a little tea and little gummies. These were amazing little boxes with candy in them that my friend Melinda made. And then Biba gave me this cute little Easter card. Isn't that so precious? She is just fabulous. I love all of her little things. And then Bridget made us all her little ducks that are filled with candy. And Brenda made these wonderful little, this is all done with like a six or 8x8 piece of designer series paper. And she just put some grass and candies. It's like origami. And got these cute little things with some candies in them. And these were from Carmen. And there was another cute little bag that my friend Cindy made, and I think it's still in my car, and I don't have time to run out there. But if I do, I can, later I'll show it to y'all. But I just feel so blessed to be able to hang out with y'all at coffees on Thursdays. And if you are local to our area, you are free to come join us. We have room for y'all, and it's just somewhere public that we can hang out and just share ideas, work on our own thing. So some people bring diamond art, some people bring knitting, some people bring watercolors, some people bring card making. So it's just a whole mishmash of creatives, and I love it. So if you're ever in Robertsdale, Alabama, y'all need to come down to Sweet Home. Sweet Home Coffee is the best coffee, so you need to go there. Also, I have some of my artwork in their shop. It's available for purchase. But today we're actually going to be painting a sea turtle, which I've been meaning to do and haven't done. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat so you aren't waiting for the punchline on this thing. I mean, first and foremost, how do you get a realistic watercolor? I pray every time I start a commission. I pray, I ask God to use my hands and to guide them to paint. But I also do a very accurate drawing. And so that is number 2 on our list of things to do. And if you can see this, I don't know why it's so dark. Maybe I'll move this light over here. See if we can get a little brighterness there. Let's see what happens. That's a little brighter. I don't know if you can see the drawing in there, y'all. But you can, let me see if I can zoom in. Sometimes I can zoom in. Transition, look at that. So you can see the drawing. Check out how pretty detailed that is, okay? Now I didn't actually put the picture of the sea turtle on here for you to see me paint it. Why did I not do that? Let's see if I can just do another little thing here and you can see what I've done. But this is very accurate drawing, okay? But not super, not every single detail. Like I didn't do all the reflections of the water on the ground. I didn't put all the little details in each shoot of the sea turtle, but I did try to keep it pretty accurate to where all the little squares, the little rectangles are at in this. So I just wanted you guys to see that I did actually do that. Let me see if I can find that image real quick for y'all. But I hope, did you guys have a good Easter? Let me know in the comments if you all have had anything amazing, fun that you did. Why can I not find my photos? Y'all, sometimes getting on this computer is so frustrating. But I was so not prepared to paint today. I was like, what am I going to paint? I have no idea what I'm going to paint today. But I've been wanting to paint this sea turtle like for a long time. I've had this picture in my phone and it's been just sitting there wanting to be painted. And I was like, I will paint you soon. I don't even know how long ago I downloaded it or screenshotted it from a video. I was watching a video and I saw this sea turtle and just was really a very unique sea turtle image. So I was like, I really like how this turned out. And you can see the shadows on the floor of the underneath the sea turtle. Y'all, I can't even find it. Maybe if I just type in turtle. And there we go. Now I can find it. So hard sometimes when I'm trying to do things. The one thing though yesterday that was kind of started to get annoying was these little tiny bugs. And if you live in the South, you know what these little bugaboos are. Like, you know, they're just crazy. So let me show you the image I'm going to be painting. So isn't that cool? I think I can do even better at zooming out. Let me see. So you can see all the little shadows that I did. Let me see. So see how at the top right there's like a shadow of another turtle, and at the bottom there's a shadow of that turtle. I just think that's really cool, and all the little white areas. But yeah, I'm definitely itching. I don't know what is itching on my elbow, but we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to do overhead again so you can see me. Hello. And you can see what I'm going to paint. And today, where are my paintbrushes? Did I lose them already? I just had them out. Oh, here they are. So sometimes it's like craziness, right? I'm going to use these two big ones. This one. I don't know where my other paintbrushes went. Maybe they're at the studio. A lot of times I'm at the studio. And I leave stuff there, and then I come home, and I'm like, I can't find it. I don't know if you guys are like that. But I am like that now. Got too many places, right? So what I want to do first and foremost on this painting is possibly the background, okay? So the background, if you, I want to be able to show it to you. Let me see. See that background? It's nice and light in a turquoisey color. So we're going to do a light turquoisey color. And you know what? I'm just going to go right in. This is not super clean water, but you know, I never have super clean water. Unless I do just have a brand new one that just came out that I do. But this is okay because I like that my own unique style is to be a little messy. You know what I'm saying? Got to be a little messy sometimes. And so I'm just adding a good amount of water on here. And I do want to go around the turtle so that I'm not getting too much. on him. But I am going to go where it's the shadow just because. But if you all want to learn how to paint sea turtles, please let me know in the comments. I can arrange to have a class for either next month or the month after. You know, it's kind of, I think on May 5th, we're doing a pet portrait class. It's going to be the first advanced pet portrait class I'm doing. So we have a few people signed up. There probably is still spots if you want to join. You can always go to my website, stampinturtles.com. And so now I want to mix up a nice blue turquoise color. So I'm going to mix. You know, I'm not the kind of person that does everything straight from the tube. I like to mix colors together. I don't like to be, look at this. We got to add water to this because we need this to be very pale. It's got to be a pale color, all right? So now we're just going to put this in very pale. And I don't think my paper's drying very fast, so that's good news, y'all. Good news. Also, I'm painting to the edges where sometimes I tape them off, but today I'm painting to the very edge. And I'm going to be probably framing it a little smaller than what it is. So there. I do have a little hair in there. I'm trying to keep my kitty cat out of my room. All right, so you can tell that there is just a very pale blue in the background there. Okay, very, very pale. It is like barely visible, okay? That's what we want. We want it to be very pale. So now I'm going to set this aside. And I could dry this or let it dry. But for now, I'm just going to let it do its little thing. And I'm going to focus on, I should have that picture on my phone. Oh, wait, here it is. Here's my phone. I can look at my phone. That's what I like, is to look at a reference photo on my phone, because if I don't do that, I won't be able to figure it out. And so another thing for being a accurate, realistic drawing or a realistic painting, you need to have your photo reference handy. So you can print it out or whatever. I've got this right here. So we're going to be looking at it on here. And I will zoom in and out as I paint. So what is that turtle? That turtle is pretty brown. Let me use this brush now instead. I like that point on there. It's nice and detailed. So I'm going to get my colors all nice and juicy here. Sometimes I would need to use a spray bottle, but if you don't have a spray bottle, just use your mop brush and go like that. It'll be good. And we don't have any questions yet. Nobody in the chat wants to talk. Y'all being shy, but that's okay. I like to text people when I'm watching a video if it's live. And I love to hear my name being called out. It's so fun. But what else are we gonna do on this guy while we're waiting for the background to dry? It is starting to dry in some areas, and still it's pooling or puddling over here. And this is not the nicest paper. I don't know. All my Arch paper is at the studio, I think. So it's just kind of, becoming a problem, I think, having the studio. I was thinking about starting to go live from the studio, but we will see if that happens. So now I'm just mixing up some of this brownish color. And you always want to paint your lightest color first. And so I'm definitely just going to go in with this kind of a reddish brown color, and it's going to have some areas that are real light and some that are real dark. I did draw these little circles around where the sunlight is, but I can always go in with a white gel pen. So it's not necessary to avoid painting those, but it's helpful to know where they're at. And if you notice in this, in the reference photo, it has a lot of, the shoots are outlined in that kind of whiter color. So we're going to try and maintain that lightness in there. So, and you always use your water. Water is your friend. So see how I'm like blending with just the clean water now? Just the clean water. So I'm getting rid of those harsh edges, maintaining the where I've put the color. So see how I've just softened that a little bit, and now it's let me see if I can do a close-up. So you can see kind of where I softened all these edges. I don't like them being real stark. I like them to be a little loose. And now I'm going to go in and do that kind of Payne's gray, dark brown. And this is where you can get messed up if you're worried about being totally accurate. But I'm allowing my hand to be guided by what I see. I'm not trying to focus on painting the details yet, because when you're watercoloring, it's definitely, there's stages. So I've always tried to keep it pretty loose. That's what I do, is make things kind of loose. Now all these little white areas in between the shoots are going to be harder to do. As you notice, this is trying to go where that is. Don't like that. But you can always erase. If you haven't learned that yet, you can erase. I'm just going to erase all of that because it's just still too wet over there and it's bleeding into the water. And I want to keep that water kind of pristine and sharp. But see how it's looking really pretty in there? Another thing you can do when you're painting with watercolor that's really cool is you can find all these little these nuances in here. So I might put a little bit of green, maybe with a little bit of turquoise, and I might add some more of this color in there. A little bit more of that. And see, I'm just kind of playing. This is kind of fun for me to play with this part. I like it. It's kind of fun. And if you don't have a paper towel nearby, you need to do that. But I'm going to use a little bit of salt and see what happens. So we're just going to add a little bit of salt while it's still wet, okay? And that can give you some really cool effects. And it's always a playing game for me. It's like, how will it look? We will see. But it's starting to come together, I think. It's already starting to come together. And I just love how it's looking next to my my image that's on my phone. I'm really, like, I don't know if you can see. We're starting to get the look of that shell, and it's just kind of, you can splatter on there as well. I think here's my smaller one. So if you want small splatters, just get your small, but I don't want it on the sky. I mean, not the sky, the water. So I gotta erase those. Erase. If I get some where I don't want it, erase. But a lot of people mask off with like a I don't know, with like a paper towel or something, so when they're splattering, it doesn't get all over the parts they don't want it on. But I am going to go back to the little shadow that I see up here, because I think I can start to do that with my brush. Let me see if I can do this. It's like a Payne's gray color. Yeah. Can you see what I'm looking at? Probably not. Let's look and see. So see, I mixed up a kind of Payne's gray color, and it's kind of gonna look a little, we're gonna enjoy how kind of blurry the edges will be on that, because this is the shadow on the floor of the pool or whatever this is. And I'm just mixing up like a Payne's gray color, and it's just real pretty how it's gonna look. You'll see how it's gonna look. It's gonna be amazing. That's another thing. You gotta trust the process on your watercolor, because sometimes we're trying to make it fit into what we want, and a lot of times what we want isn't what the painting wants. The painting wants to emerge, y'all. So just trust the process. But I'm adding a little bit darker Payne's gray in there. This paper is staying really wet, and I can show you what brand it is. I think I got it at Walmart. I got it for doing mixed media. I like doing mixed media on a cheaper watercolor paper. Now, is that what I want? I think that's what I want. I think it's looking like the shadow. Can you see? It is a little different of a color because we're doing layer 1, layer 2 maybe. So it's not supposed to look exactly like this yet, but it's getting there, okay? It's getting there. Now I might zoom down to the bottom shadow. So we might want to move this up. I have so much stuff on my desk. Hello. We'll put you over there. Move some of my stuff over there. Try and make room so I can push this a little bit. Maybe. There we go. You can see the bottom of this. Oops. Just knocked my brush down. So I'm going to paint this bottom part of the shadow. Sorry about the lighting. Bottom part of the shadow. So I'm going to use that same kind of Payne's gray that I have already on my palette. And I already traced it, so I'm going to be able to go around. And the brush I normally use for this is definitely giving me some fit. So we're going to switch to this bigger size. And you don't have to be too exact with this when you're painting something that's kind of an organic feel to it anyways, because if you're painting like water, no one's going to be like, oh, that shadow, that reflection is a little bit different than the reference photo. It should be fine, because the one thing though I do like in this, I don't know if you can tell, let me see if I can show you it in the reference photo. So if you can see down at the bottom, you can tell that the reflection on the water surface is interfering a little bit with that shadow. So there's some bright parts to it and some ripples. So we need to kind of be mindful of that. And we can always lift. So like if I want to lift my ripples out, And I need a drier piece of paper towel. But I can lift and lift and see how those ripples are showing up and over here. But I'm not quite as dark as I want to be yet. But that's just kind of giving me an idea of what I want to maintain. So I'm just lifting out those highlights. And so that's the shadow underneath. It's still not as dark as I need it to be. I need it to be a little darker, but it's got to wait. Ooh. It's got to wait. Let's see, get some of this stuff off of my desk. So now I'm going to do the, I think part of his head. I think I should focus on that part now. I think this is all fairly dry, hopefully. And if you use your paints really thickly instead of with tons of water, if you, like over here, if I mix it up right here, you can tell that's thick. It's not dripping like the blue is dripping. But the brown is not. You can add more water if you need to. And add some Payne's Gray in there. I like to mix my brown and Payne's Gray together. I think that's a pretty color. So now I'm going to go in and go around each one of these guys. And this is why sometimes I don't paint realistic live, because I think sometimes doing this, you'll be like, well, that's very tedious. It's almost like paint by numbers, right? Which some people like to watch that kind of content, you know, just relax, put it on, and not worry too much about it. But I don't know if you guys noticed, it is not storming today, so it's kind of nice. But it's supposed to be 80 degrees. I'm going to be happy when it's pool time and I can go swim in the pool. Now this is a shot from above, so it's really hard to tell where his eyes are and things, but I'm also continuing this kind of a brownish color and I'm loosening that just a little bit because I want it to be kind of a pillar color and softening. I'm always softening that. And it's still really wet right there, so it's kind of bleeding out like that, but it's okay. It's okay if it does. Right now we're just kind of getting the first couple layers, so it's not super important to have it be perfect yet. It's not time to focus on the perfection. We can get to that in a little bit, but right now we are just focusing on getting these little shoots now. I've already kind of drawn them in. I don't know if you can see. If I can do a close-up. What's the close-up look like? I can try and do that. So, what you can see is that I'm just trying to fill in these little guys with like a darker color. So I'm preserving like the in-between, but I'm still not trying to be too exact yet. I want it to be loose still. And you can get real deep, fine detail if you want, but I like things to look watercolory. I don't want it to look like a photo just yet. And my whole fun thing about watercoloring is like people from a distance say it looks realistic, and then they get up close and they see all the little drips and all the little splatters, and that's kind of what makes me happy, is to see that it does represent well. Hey Beth, So glad you could join me today. You love this subject? Yes, me too. And I've been wanting to do this. And since you're one of my loyal students, do you think we should paint this next month for our Sunday gathering? Let me know if you would want to paint this. And you could probably be my guinea pigs if I can teach it. I don't think it's too hard to do something like this. It's more of a, just filling in um, all these little spots, right? They're kind of almost like squares and trapezoids, and some of them are little ovals, some of them are, um, I don't know, some of them are all kinds of different shapes. And octagons, maybe, pentagons, who knows? However many sides there are on these. And notice that I'm just kind of filling this in very quickly. I'm not even looking at my reference photo at the moment because I know it's going to be very similar to what I already drew. That's why I drew it, so it could be more accurate. So I'm filling all that part in over here. And on the reference photo, let me see if I can show you it again. So you can notice that there's a lot of dark spots, dark areas of the shell and the front legs, the neck, and I'm not quite there yet. Okay, so I'm getting there, but I'm not quite there yet. Got to add these layers a little bit at a time. So right now I've got a base, a very good base, and I think my salt is doing what it should be doing. I don't know if you can see that up close. I'm going to try and zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see the shell really good. So look at that shell. And there's like all these little nuances that are kind of spreading out away from the salt. And that's kind of what salt does. So in the end, I may not even have it look too much like the photo reference. But it's going to be, you're going to know it's a sea turtle. You're going to be like, oh, that looks amazing. And it's going to be fine. It'll be fine. But I know a lot of times with, like, if you're an acrylic painter and you're painting your subject matter, what you can do is you would paint like all one color, then you would add the different colors in there, and then you would add like the white in between the shoots at the end. So you almost go dark to light when you're painting with your acrylic, but it really doesn't matter. Acrylic is just wherever you put the color, it's going to end up being. So now I'm going back in with this darker color, and see how this is still kind of wet. In some areas it's kind of blending. And we want that. We want to keep and preserve, we want it to stay kind of wet so that when we put the dark color in there now, it kind of spreads a little bit. Not everything, but we're going to want it to spread just a little bit, right? And we're going to keep adding the darker colors in there. And I keep filling my brush up. I don't know if you see what I'm doing over there. I'm trying to keep that kind of soft and preserved little feel to it. And I'm just adding like dabs. I'm just dabbing in there. And if it got too dry and I'm not liking how it's reacting when I touch the paper, I can always add some water. So I have my water right there, and I can add little blobs of water in there. And then I can add that darker color in there. And see how that kind of spreads? That's kind of cool. And let's see what else we got going on. So I'm just letting this do its thing. Just do its thing. That's sometimes, if you're a control freak, those words, do its thing, let it do its thing, is kind of hard because you're like, oh, I want it to be exactly where I want it to be. But that's the beauty, I think, of watercolors, that you're not in control. I mean, to an extent, now that I've practiced enough, I kind of have an idea of what the water and the paint's going to do. I have an idea. So I'm not in the dark about it because I've practiced enough that I know kind of how it will react. But then if, I've got this paper that I've been using, and it's like, is it going to work the same as arch paper? No. So now I have to kind of compensate a little bit for that, which might make it a little more difficult for me, which is fine. Sometimes we want to be challenged, right? But I'm going to fill all this in with that darker color, and it should look really pretty. Kind of blend it into the lighter color. And I'm sorry I don't tell you guys what colors I'm using. Most of the time I just look at my palette and it's already kind of messy, but I fill this up with Payne's Gray, this section. This is like burnt umber, I think, or burnt sienna. Burnt umber or burnt sienna. I get those two mixed up. And this was some kind of gray that came in this palette that I haven't used up yet because I don't use too much of it. It's kind of opaque, so I don't really use it. And then there's two different purples. There's like a navy bluish color. There's like a light blue color. This might be cobalt blue. I forget what color it is. Aquamarine. And then these are like real turquoise colors over here. And this is like a greeny color of turquoise. And then this is like viridian green and sap green. My two reds that I have. So I have like a Algerian crimson and then cad red. And then my cad orange and different like cad orange. These two I like a lot. I don't even know what you would call these two. This is like yellow of some sort, like probably yellow ochre. This is like cad yellow. This is like light lemon yellow. And then I do have this white that's here, but I don't ever use it. I mean, I used it a few times, but sometimes I just put this white ink in there, and that's what I use. So, but the combination of all these colors together is what I use. So sometimes I get kind of crazy and put 4 or 5 different colors and I mix them, and that's my colors. So now I'm going to go back into the shell area because I think I need a little more Payne's Gray, because this is the part that's going to be kind of dark in here. But I don't know if you're seeing this. Is it close up enough that you guys can see it's kind of bleeding out a little bit still? But I'm liking how that's looking. It's very soft. And I don't know if my pencil is right where I want it. But you know what? Even if you do a drawing at the beginning and you end up kind of going over where you drew and you're like, I want to change it, you can change it. You don't have to stick with what you drew on there. That's why I always say paint really light, or draw really light with your pencil so that you can erase it or you can change and do something different. Let's go like this. And see how I'm just making it have little areas of white in between. It's kind of cool. Let me see if I can move this down just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I gotta remember to look at what I'm painting and on the screen, because sometimes it's a little bit different and I'm like, oh, you didn't even see what I was painting. Sometimes you see the side of my ear the whole time. that's happened, which is really horrible. I don't want that to happen again. All right, now I'm just kind of filling in. See how this side is really kind of a darker side. It's kind of towards the bottom of the turtle. So I'm trying to get that outline really good. And that's all dry. So see how it's not bleeding out? That's because this is dry. If this was wet, that would all be flowing that direction. So sometimes you got to be patient. You got to wait for areas to dry. Because if you don't wait for them to dry, you'll end up with something not quite what you wanted. But again, you can always erase. I like to erase if I don't like something. So this is really cool. I'm liking how this is starting to look. I'm just adding these fun little darker areas. And I can see my pencil line underneath there. It's kind of light, but that's kind of what you want. So if you're just starting off and you're wanting to learn watercolor and you're a little stressed out because it's not turning out how you like, I would suggest starting off with an accurate drawing. And my absolute favorite app to use is DaVinci. I do trace in that, and I get very accurate drawings because of using that. I don't know if I have any of my own tutorials on there, but you can look it up online. There's plenty of tutorials on how to use DaVinci. And, it does cost some money now, I think. I got it when it wasn't costing anything. And see, I'm just going to add some clean water. Look at how that's just kind of blending that. And it's going to make some blooms, but I think that's going to be good. Like that. But now it's going to take some time for it to dry. Let's see. Get some more paper towels. Need lots of paper towels. I'm just drying my brush. Sometimes I want to dry it and clean it. But yeah, that's looking pretty. I like how that's looking. And I can add more of this darker Payne's Gray if I want into here. And that's just going to define that shoot really good. I might add some of that reddish color in there. And a little bit over here. And see, now I'm just letting like the Holy Spirit move my hand. I am not even doing too much looking at my reference photo. Just a little bit. And letting it kind of be guided. So Beth, what'd you do for Easter? You do anything fun? Oh, I like how that's looking. I don't know. Sometimes you like something and you don't want to cover it up. That's me a lot of times. I'm like, oh, I don't want to cover that up. But I do want to add some contrast. Contrast is your friend when it comes to watercolor, because then you're going to end up having these nice... I am adding this blue in here, I think, in this section, because you can tell that it's more of a reflection in the water. And so I'm adding that in there, trying to avoid my little white speckles reflecting on the surface, but I can always go in with a white gel pen. So some competitions, if you enter online, they may not allow for white gel white gel pens, but you can always read and see what their things say to do. But look at how pretty that's looking. I love how I'm adding that Payne's Gray in there and it's just kind of dark. Oh, y'all can't see. Sorry. Let me transition. So look at how this is so pretty right down in here. And see that contrast is so pretty. And there's a lot of still really wet areas in here, which is making for it to look more speckly. I like that. And I'm just adding this blue in there that was for the water. That's making it look a little more like you're seeing it through the water maybe. And giving it a nice watery feel. I like how that's looking. I add some more Payne's Gray in there. Ooh, you're getting kind of a shine on there because it is a lot of water. So I'll switch you back over to this view because it might be easier to see what I'm doing. And I don't know if you notice, like all in this neck area, there's a bunch of little speckles. And I'm not really focusing on those too much. I just want to make them, and they'll dry a little lighter. That's another thing about watercoloring that's sometimes can be frustrating. You're like, oh, I got the color just right, how I want it. And then you come back 20 minutes later, it's all dry and it looks a lot lighter. And you're like, that's not how I wanted it. And the good thing though is that you can darken it after the fact. So that's kind of a good thing that you can do. I'm just adding these little wrinkles on the side of his neck there, and it looks like this is a shadow area, so I'm just adding that shadow. And I add some shadow on that side too. But you can always add the shadow at the very end. Sometimes that's what I do. What on earth is this in there? It's always something stuck in there. So I'm just trying to get these little dots just to give us a little bit of a feel of those. If that's part of the neck. Maybe I can zoom in on that part. Look at that. See, we got some right there, and it's starting to look pretty good. I mean, I can tell it's a sea turtle. And these are going to end up being really dark. So we're not quite there yet. I could probably start adding that darker part in. And since it's still really wet in there, it's kind of bleeding towards those other sides. So I like that. I like how that's turning out. Might go back over here and add some darker colors and go around. And I don't know if you notice how I'm holding my brush. I'm holding it very loose and towards the end. I'm not trying to hold it like, you know, a pencil like this. I'm just kind of holding it real loose so that wherever it goes, it goes. And see, I'm just touching here and there. What I liked about this part of his head was that it almost makes a cross right there. So I kind of like that. I'm going to try and preserve that. Recently I was painting this really pretty show dog, and in the pupils of that dog was a cross, a little highlight of the lights from the room. But I noticed it was like a little cross, and I was like, that is so amazing how God does stuff like that to remind you that he's there. All right, so I am doing that part. He needs a lot more contrast. We're not quite done with him. And you may be like, well, how are you going to do the water? The water is going to be like the fun part, y'all. I do need probably, what do I have? All my brushes are like totally at the studio. This is a flat brush that I might need. Can you see that? A flat brush. So I may end up, let me see if I can show you, because I don't want to go over too much. We got 10 minutes and I probably can't finish this in 10 minutes. We'll see. So this is the same blue I was using. And we're going to try and preserve some of those little white areas. But they're not squares and they're not, I don't know what they are. I did not draw them. I want to just let it to be organic shapes. And I need to preserve those white areas. And I just kind of like, it's almost like the shoots on the turtle too, because it's just kind of cool. And you can start to get into a rhythm with this maybe. And do whatever you'd want to do. Can you see what I'm doing? I hope I haven't been not showing you what I'm doing. But the waves, as they're starting to ripple on the surface, they make these patterns on the floor. And you can make them however you want. And they're just going to be fun to do. Maybe time consuming, but they'll be fun. And as I do this, I'm going to be double checking to see what I'm doing to try and make it look a little more realistic. But basically, I'm just adding shapes. That's all I'm really doing. And that'll make it look like water. And you can make some of these larger, smaller. You can blend them out. You can make areas that look a little long, like this. You can just add some other little areas like that. So you can kind of go around and do something fun like that. So see how this is just kind of becoming its own little thing, and I'm starting to just let my own playfulness start to come out. And if you wanted to, you can do that. But they're making like these shapes. I don't know if you can see the shapes coming out. So it's starting to look like water, don't you think, on the bottom there? And, you know, I can do some larger areas. I can keep that white preserved really thickly or kind of thin. But see how I did the whole thing in that white or light blue? So that's why we did it so light. We didn't want it to be too dark, because then you wouldn't have these nice lines that are happening. And I like how this is starting to look. And you know, you can change those lines to be a little bit more fun. Some are wider, some are less wide. Let's see what else we got going So see how this is looking? And you might be like, oh, mine's not going to look like that. Well, remember, if you're just starting out, you need to remember to give yourself some grace. Let it just kind of be um, a learning process, which you practice and you get better. And if you try and do exactly how I'm doing it from the get-go, you'll probably be frustrated. You need to remember that I started somewhere. Everyone on the internet doing these videos started somewhere, right? I watched a lot of Paul Clark's videos, so I started with that. And it's almost neat how the water can mimic those plates of the sea turtle. And it's just so cool how nature is. And when you really spend time observing as an artist nature and the shapes you see in like trees, and you see all these fun things that um, you wouldn't normally see if you're just not taking the time to see them. But see, I'm just going to add a little water in there too. And then there is some over here. We're just going to add some. And they're separated a little bit. That, but you can tell that the sea turtle's breaking the surface there. So there's a little more ripples. And it's just kind of cool. Just kind of cool, y'all. I love it. So see how that's looking? And if I want to, I can even go a little darker in some of these areas. If I can get some, you can add some turquoise in there while it's still wet. You can add some water. You can add, a little Payne's Gray. See, it has to have some, still has to be kind of wet to do what I'm doing. That might have been too dark. But see, I'm going to add to this shadow now under here. And that's what's going to really make this pop, is adding that second layer in there of the Payne's Gray. And you can do that while everything around it's kind of wet. But it doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. Please remember, this is for fun and relaxation, to enjoy what you're doing. Sometimes we want to do perfection, and we don't need to. We can have fun with our paints. A lot of times I do mixed media just for fun. I don't know if it's looking very good when I'm done with it, but I enjoyed my process of creating and just playing with different products that I have. So that's kind of what I like to do. And there we go. So that's the shadow down there. I do need to get back up to this area of the turtle. If you can see what I'm doing over here, maybe I can zoom in. And then you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to just pick up some color, and I'm looking at what I'm doing. So I'm just making these little shapes. Pick up more color. And just keeping it really loose. And there's different shapes. And you can get You can be very loose with this. You don't have to do it super tight. I guess that's the opposite of loose, right? Tight. So I'm trying to make these shapes like what I see. And they're definitely different than what's over on the right side. But for some reason, the shapes over here are not as, they don't have as much of a square shape to them. They're more loose and flowing like that, like what you would imagine swirls on the surface would be. I might need to mix a little bit more of my colors. Let's see what happens. Now this shape right here is kind of more like that. But don't make them all the same. If you guys are doing this, do not make them all the same. You want to be different shapes in there. If you try and make them all the same and all the same color in there, it's not going to look right. It's going to look too contrived and not realistic. So if our goal is to have realism, and that's what we want to focus on, is doing different shapes. So make some of them square, make them C's, make some of them like a octagons, make some of them swirls. So got all that in there. That's looking pretty good. I may add a little bit of turquoise in here with a little bit of Payne's Gray in there. Because why? I don't know. I see some kind of darker areas. And it just makes me kind of happy to add them in there. And they may not be perfect, y'all. And we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to make it look like reflections. Now I'm going to add just clean water. See how that clean water makes it kind of look more flowy and soften those edges a little bit. You can even blend them together with the nearby. That kind of looks good and loose. I like the good loose colors. But you can do whatever you want. And I'm going to darken that shadow. We'll see how this goes. And now see, I want to add some of that darker turquoisey color in here. It's still really wet and stuff, so I can do it here and there. If you have really good paper, it stays wet for a long time, so that's good. I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to make up this area because it doesn't seem, oh, maybe it is there. It almost has like a green color in there. So really let your eyes look and see what you're seeing. Sometimes we try to imagine what we're seeing, but if you're letting your eyes look and just kind of be, you know what, this is what it looks like. So you want to get those lines kind of, we're working on making them a little bit more closer together and creating those ripples from the surface. And they're just kind of showing up, doing their thing. Add some water. And now we're going to define that a little bit. Let me drink some tea. I don't know why my voice always goes on me. There's the sorry. There's the kind of full length there. Getting there. I might move it around a little bit so we can see the top now. And I'm gonna switch brushes. I want this to be dark. I'm ready to do that second layer of kind of a Payne's gray mixed with the blue. And I am trying to stick to that kind of shape of a turtle, but it doesn't have to be too exact because it's on the bottom. It's kind of going to be a little bit like the ripples and not as exact looking as a turtle, but it's going to have that shape. So it's going to look like the right shape, but it's definitely going to be watery. It's a shadow. So that's looking really good. I like how that looks. I'll leave that just like it is. And then let's see our little turtle. A turtle. I'm going to use my small brush again, like this small brush. I'm going to go back to doing some of the turtle's features, kind of. And mixing it up and making these darker colors and just keep adding. See, this is like another layer now I'm doing. And you're seeing it's really getting exciting because it's starting to really take shape. And this is the fun of watercolor, is that you get to watch this happen. It's kind of magical. Kind of magical as it spreads across these little shoots, right? Let me see. This is like right here. I've lost a lot of my pencil lines, so I'm trying to recreate them. But I definitely want to keep this really dark in here. And preserve that. Oops. Did not want to make a little spot right there. So now I'm just going to add some in here. And you can always do that salt technique again, like if you've lost a lot of detail painting over it or something. And now I'm just going to start doing some darker images in here. Why? Because it's going to make those little shoots and stuff pop. I don't know if you've seen my painting of Otis, the box turtle, but that was fun, painting all the little details and the yellows and stuff like that. It was really fun. So now I'm just getting my contrasts in, because if you don't have a lot of contrast, you need to add them in there. And that's coming along. Pretty good, y'all, pretty good. But I might add some dark in here. And there's a lot of water on my brush, like so much. I want to get rid of some of that and just add some of this dark Payne's gray in there. That's looking really pretty. Might add a little bit more Payne's gray in here. Might add a little more contrasting in here. That's just going to give him the roundness that he needs. It's got to be a little bit round. You know what I'm saying? Add some in there. And in there. maybe a little bit more brown colors, that little bit of reddish brown, like kind of blending it in with the Payne's gray. That looks kind of good. Maybe add some more in here. I think some of these shoots are a little darker, so add those in there. Ugh. Let's see what else we got. I want to blend it in there. I like that. That looks good. So the key, I would say, is to have a good rendered drawing. That's kind of key to realistic. If you're going to have a realistic painting, you need to have that. There, I'm just kind of adding these. I notice they're almost like stripes, but they're not stripes. I don't know. They're kind of neat, like how they look. And I'm not trying to make too many of them, just enough to give you an idea that they're there. And we're going to put some of this darker blues in here. Try and keep that highlights of where I'm going to put the little bright white, because you know, bright white paper, it's hard to bring that back if you color it. So I'm trying to keep around that. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Let's see. So right over in here, I'm just using this blue, trying to go around each of those little circles I kind of drew. That's where I'm going to try and preserve the white. And look at how, like, now I can add, and it just kind of flows. I'm going to add a little water in there to just kind of soften those edges. And that is looking so pretty. I love it. I love it. It's always nice when you love your own painting, isn't it, y'all? I think so. And you're like happy and you're like, yay, I did that. I am going to switch back just a little bit to this part right here. And I'm mixing this up again. And then I'm just going to put a lot of water. But I'm going to test it on this area, test it over here. Because this is probably where I'm not going to see it as much. And you can add some of that Payne's gray as you're mixing. And just kind of do. I'm really getting it to mix. So I'm just having some fun. You want to have fun. You don't want it to be too serious. It's not life or death. I don't know how some people do it that are doctors and they're got people's lives in their hands. That to me is scary to do. This is not life or death. This is fun. And enjoying. I'm enjoying it. And I'm just adding some water. See how it's just kind of flowing? It's so pretty. I love that. I might add some more in here. And see, it doesn't have to be exact. You can just go almost like willy-nilly here and there, right? And just kind of fun. Now I'm just adding clean water, or as clean as it is in there. It's not super clean actually. Especially now that I've been using it. But see how I'm just kind of letting these things just kind of go places, do these things here and there. And I think it will look really good once it's done. Done. Like, I think that's looking really good. And I've been adding these, kind of sporadically here and there, mixing a little bit darker blues in there, adding the clean water in there, and just kind of letting it spread. See how that's looking? It's so pretty and loose. That's what I love. I love that pretty loose fill. You can add the darkers in there. You can add really a lot of darks to this one spot if you want, because then that makes that side look really like it's got some kind of darker shadows in it, and it gives interest. Like, a lot of times you want to create an interesting photo, interesting painting. Now I may end up doing this just to get some different colors on this guy, on this shadow, because he's not all one color if you look at the reference photo. There are darker colors, darker areas. But if it's still really wet, it's nice because then you can get that nice shadow. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm painting again. So I will move it. I like how this is real loose. And yeah, you will be amazed. It's gonna look so realistic, basically. So yeah, I'm just adding that in there. Might go back down to the other shadow. Let me see if I can move it down to the other shadow. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to add that same kind of blue that I've been working on. And just kind of putting that in there and creating the shadow of this turtle. And he's very wobbly because, like, all of the water above him is very moving, because I think part of his shell might be almost out of the water or brushing the surface of the water. And I'm going to add some of my Payne's gray in there and darks in there, but it's very loose and watery because we want it to be loose and watery, right? Might add a little bit in here because that just makes it look kind of like the waves are kind of overlapping each other. It's just kind of really cool. A little more water, just make it not too stark. I want it to look a little loose. A little bit more dark in here. Over here. Oops. I think what I did right there was go over this white part that I wanted, but it's okay. There we go. So you're seeing kind of like, I don't know. Let me see if I zoom out again just a little. So you can see how it's like granulating in here. That's kind of cool. But what I'm going to do is dry my brush, dry it completely, rinsed and clean. Now I'm going to make ripples, if I can. So see how they're kind of uniform? Ripples are uniform. And this is the part that might take a little bit of time, trying to do these ripples. But you can see them now. They're kind of rippling right there. And there are some more down in here. I don't know if I'm just going to paint. Paint around them. Sometimes I paint around them, sometimes I lift them. And that's what's so cool about watercolor is it's your decision how you want to do it. Do you want to make it so that it's masked off, or do you want to do it where you want to go around it, or do you want to do other things? Like, it's so many ways to approach the watercolors. It's just really fun, y'all. It's just so much fun. That is looking really good. Add a little more in there though. Might put a little bit up on there and see if I can pull it down just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing up here. So see how this is real light in here? I might end up doing this, kind of getting that to stand out again. And you can wet it and just blend some of those together. So see, I'm just adding a little bit here and there. Now I noticed too on his head, he does need to have a little bit more darker areas. Let's see if we can add those real quick and then I should be done. So I'm just going to add a little bit here and there, because that makes his head pop, just pops a little bit, right? And if your paper is really dry, I suggest you can re-wet it or just add a little bit of water in there. Like, you'll know how much to add. Like, you'll just get better at that as you do it. I do like this kind of shadowy side. Remember I said you can add a shadow at the end? That's just a little bit too dark. So I'm just going to erase. You can erase, you guys. That looks pretty good. I am getting it all over my arm, y'all. So yeah, just that shadow right there. I might add a little bit of a shadow in there. It needs to be a little more Payne's grayish, a little more brown. So see how I'm just adding this shadow kind of, but I'm gonna rinse, dry, and lift to kind of blend that in. So that's looking good there. I'm going to add some of this kind of bluey, shadowy in there. That's what I think is going to add some pretty, it's going to be kind of blue in there, just like we had a bunch of blue in there. Let me zoom back out because I feel like you're missing a lot of what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm just filling in some of this kind of bluish color to make shadows. And for me, I like making shadows kind of a bluish color. And it just kind of makes it more cohesive to do that and get that in there. But I might need to add some more dark into these. Just adding that Payne's gray right on top of some of this already painted with the water. But it's looking pretty good. What do you think? Not too shabby, huh? So I think we're done. And we did go over 20 something minutes. So this took me about an hour. What did it take me? Like an hour? Can I make this zoom out? It's kind of hard to make it zoom out. But how's that? So that's my sea turtle. He is looking pretty. I like him. And a lot of times people, when you're painting, you may be like um, feeling frustrated. If you're frustrated with the painting, just let it sit for a minute or a day and come back later. And that's a great way to paint as well. Like I'm already looking, I think this is needing a little more blue to it. So I may end up going back in and just creating more blue. See how you can change the color right on the paper. And so I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, I ruined it because the colors are off. You can always go back and add color over the top like a glaze, and that should make it look really pretty. And I may end up doing some of that too, a little darker. I may end up putting some dark in these little shoots. You know, sometimes this is like when I overdo it, right? But it's kind of fun sometimes to overdo it. And that's how we learn. If we don't overdo it, sometimes we're like playing it safe. And so then what happens is we play it too safe and we don't have a result that is really awesome. So see, I just added that little bit of dark in there and it's really adding. See? It just adds a little bit of amazing contrast in there, right? And that's kind of the point we're wanting, right? We want this to look like it's three-dimensional. I love that. I just added that dark in there and it's really making him pop. Pop, pop, pop. Right? I may add some more dark in here. But if you are getting a little frustrated with your painting, just go back the next day. And don't worry about trying to finish something in one day. You can always come back the next day. And I might add some more detail in here too. Because that's kind of where his little shoots are kind of dark. And down in here, because it's almost like it's turning downwards, so it's a little bit of a shadow in there. See how I'm doing that? So it's looking really nice, kind of shadowing it. And you can darken some of these things up here. Wherever you think you need it. You just go back, you look at it, take a picture of it with your phone and look at it, and then you'll be amazed what your phone can like show you. Like I'm looking at this on my screen and it looks good. Sometimes you're looking at it like in real life and it's making you crazy because you're like, that don't look right. But you know what? It does look good. And I think we got to give ourselves grace, of course, but we got to be less critical of ourselves. But I do like this. I think it looks so amazing. So amazing. Should I sign it? I feel like I could sign this one. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it looks like it's done? Do you think it looks sellable maybe? Who knows, right? Who knows? I know my daughter was texting me a minute ago, so I gotta see what she's up to. But so far, I think this is gonna be good. I may look at it again later and be like, oh, it needs a little more detail, and that'll be after it dries for a bit, right? We want it to be having I think it's one of those things that you can always come back and see where you need to improve on a section or do something different. And yeah, so definitely can always come back. But what are we going to do right now is we're going to take my little light and move it so I can be talking to you guys. So I definitely had no scripture planned for today, but I just looked up today's scripture of the day. And it says 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. And it says, always be joyful, pray continually, give thanks in every circumstance, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And remember that as Christians, we should be joyful. I think that if we're down and complaining and critical and not trusting God in our life, but we're trusting in ourselves, trusting in money, trusting in government, trusting in even the Pope, which today I heard that he has passed away, and my condolences for all those who are mourning his death. And I pray for comfort for people. I pray for them to not have their trust in the Pope, but trust in the Lord, because Jesus, he is coming back, y'all, and he will be the one that we turn to. Everyone will worship him, but I believe that in the end we choose to be with him or choose not to. So the choice is really up to us. But as a Christian, if you aren't feeling very joyful, shoot me a message and we can talk about how maybe I could encourage you a little bit more into just putting your faith in that every day, even if there's a struggle. Like, there are so many struggles, y'all, real struggles that people are going through. And I feel like, I'm one of those. I struggle too. So, especially paying the bills, that's when I struggle, and I'm not joyful at all during that time. But I'll be honest, he has come through for me every month, so I trust in him, and he is showing me great things. In fact, he has had it so that I'm doing more classes, and I'm teaching in Mobile now. So if you live in Mobile, Alabama, look up coastalmakers.com and they will have some of my classes there. In fact, I'm teaching on Thursday night. There may be some spots available. I don't know. So you can look into that. And again, next month I'll be teaching the pet portrait class. And some other classes, maybe sea turtle. We don't know yet, right? So, but I hope you all have a blessed day, and just know that I love you and I pray for you. Mwah.